Good to have you still in the rig as we head down the road. Bill Werner has been on this show a number of times, and we hope to have him on a number more. For us that live in the east part of this viewing area, and quite frankly, there's a number of people on the Minnesota side that watch Beck News and watch this show. Bill Werner is a name you know and recognize. Bill is the voice for us of the Minnesota News Network, and a couple of issues that we wanted to talk to Bill about, and he's willing to give us his time. Bill, good to have you back on Down the Road.
Always good to be with you, Joel. Always good.
We'll get to the legislative session in just a sec, Bill, but I know today is a tough day. Minnesota, it's like a powder keg, and there's a funeral today.
Amir Locke's funeral, the young man, 22 years old, who was fatally shot by police, actually just 4 blocks from where I sit here in town, Minneapolis, right across the street from Orchestra Hall. It was a SWAT operation, no-knock warrant, went wrong. Amir Locke's name was never on the warrant, but they were looking for someone else, and the situation is such that he was shot and killed. And his funeral is today. It's just got underway. I think they may be actually to the point of where they're getting into some of the actual liturgy now. There was a lot of singing and memorializing at the beginning of the funeral at Shiloh Temple Ministries in the heart of North Minneapolis. So it's underway as we speak. Reverend Al Sharpton is going to be there. Is going to speak, and needless to say, that brings national prominence to the event, which had probably even national prominence before this, I think. Yeah.
Bill, I want to talk about no knock. If I was the chief of police, and I know this is a protection issue, and that line officer out there that's right there on the front line has got to be someone that we sit down and talk to, because I know some police members of the police, I should say, in Minneapolis and the St. Paul area, and they're good people. I mean, they're really good people. But if I were their boss, if I were their chief of police, I'm not sure I would want these no-knock warrants. I'm just not. And are you hearing more of that in Minnesota, where it's like, look, it's time to pull the pin on this?
Well, yeah, there are a lot of people who say that. And as a matter of fact, there's a bill, interestingly enough, there's a bill that as the funeral is underway, there's a bill that's going to be in committee talking about no-knock warrants in the Minnesota House. And I'm going to actually take a look here if I can get to the right screen here. And I think you can still hear me. You can still see me, right? Okay. What this bill will do is it will limit the use of no-knock search warrants to cases involving persons held against their consent, and a no-knock warrant being necessary to avert imminent death or great bodily harm. So that is what Democrats in the House want to do, Joel. Republicans in the Senate say they're very leery of restricting these, I think to that degree, arguing that police officers need tools to be able to, in certain situations, they got to get the jump on things so that evidence doesn't disappear, so that they get suspects for serious crimes in the bag, so to speak. So there are strong arguments on both sides of this. And the Democrats in the Minnesota House are going to push let's ban no-knock warrants with very limited exceptions, such as the one that I mentioned. And the Republicans in the Senate, from the indications we have, are going to be resistant to that, saying Bill, we need to have some tools in the bag.
What's the chief of police say?
Well, it depends. You mean in terms of the
right? I mean,
if
you're that individual out there in that squad car, and I understand where your thought process might be, and I don't blame him for that. But what is his boss saying? The people that have been brought into leadership in the Minneapolis police force are individuals that have brought in to change things. And so what are they saying? Are they saying, look, we don't need a law for this. What we need to do is just administer it better?
So far, I think there has not been a tremendous amount of comment. Okay. And that doesn't surprise me under the circumstances. Because the politics of this are so inflammatory, right? And I suspect that when, if I were a chief of police, and I'm nowhere near a chief of police, I don't have anywhere near the experience for that, but I would say probably hold back a little bit and see how this whole thing, which way which way the wind is blowing, and then maybe weigh in at that point.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about the Minnesota legislative session. Obviously, there's a difference in what money should be spent and how it should be spent. It seems to be already getting contentious. And in the Minnesota legislature, it seems like they don't settle anything money-wise till the very end anyway. So where do you see it going this session?
Well, everybody's got a lot of proposals out there. As an example, the most recent one yesterday, 1 point some billion dollars for beefing up housing initiatives in Minnesota. Something that Democrats brought forward. Republicans say it's misdirected. It doesn't target the money where it needs to go. You have Republicans wanting $2.7 billion. And again, remember, we have a $7.7 billion surplus. Okay, so this is getting chewed up pretty fast, right? But the Republicans are saying let's use $2.7 billion of it to take care of the problem that we have with the unemployment insurance fund that got run down, that got depleted by COVID. And businesses are going to have to backfill this, which means tax increases. They say, hey, the state needs to come in and backfill this fund so businesses don't get a tax increase. Meanwhile, the Democrats say, well, okay, we'll give you $1 billion if you give us $1 billion so that we can have those frontline worker COVID bonuses, which have been sitting there in limbo land for the better part of a year. So, you know, if you add up all those $1 billion plus all the other stuff in there, we're way over 7.7.
Yeah.
That's what it comes right down to, Joe.
In the old days of legislating, back in my days in the state Senate, you know, I had a governor one time when I threw some proposals out on infrastructure. He said, you know, Joel, $1 billion here, $1 billion there. Pretty soon you're talking about real money.
That's right.
I was like, yeah,
it's interesting mathematics. You know, it's kind of this dinner napkin, paper napkin kind of math.
A lot of good legislations come that way. Bill, we're gonna touch base with you another day if you don't mind.
Good, absolutely. We'll talk to you soon.